Let's be real, if you've ever stared at a failed test log and had absolutely no idea what went wrong, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to take those super cryptic failures and turn them into clear, actionable insights, all using the awesome Playwright framework.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. A test fails, and the log just gives you this one, single, totally unhelpful line. You know something broke, but you have no clue what, why, or where. It's a huge pain point, but thankfully, it's one we can absolutely fix. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with that frustrating cryptic failure. Then we'll walk step by step through turning on some basic tools, making our reports way more readable, writing smarter assertions, and even tailoring reports for different people. And stick around, because at the end, we'll touch on a little bit of AI magic.
Okay, so this is where we begin. The test timed out, waiting to click something. And that's all we get. Was the element just not there? Did it show up too late? Was my selector totally wrong? The log tells us nothing, which forces us to start digging through code and rerunning tests just to figure out what was happening.
So the very first thing we need to do is activate Playwright's built-in visibility tools. This is our first aid kit, our first line of defense, and it gives us these immediate, powerful insights with just a couple of tiny config changes.
So inside your playwright.config.js file, we're going to enable three key things. First, the HTML reporter for a nice web-based view. Second, screenshots on failure, so you can see the very last thing the test saw. And third, traces, which are a total game changer for debugging those flaky tests that only seem to fail on a retry. And that brings us to the trace viewer. Seriously, think of this thing as a flight recorder for your tests. It captures everything, letting you literally go back in time and see the entire test run from the browser's point of view. Honestly, with this tool, you almost never need video recordings again. It's that good. The real magic here is in the details. You can see snapshots before, during, and after every single action. You can dig into all the network logs, spot console errors, and even inspect a live version of the DOM at the exact moment a step ran. It's an incredible tool for pinpointing exactly what went wrong. Okay, so now we've got visibility, but our report is still just this technical log of clicks and fills. It's time to level up. Let's see how we can transform our report from a list of commands into a readable story that actually explains the business intent behind what the test is doing. The secret is Playwright's built-in test.step function. By just wrapping our actions in these steps, the HTML report changes completely. Instead of a generic locator.click, it now says open new task form. All of a sudden, anyone, QA, developers, even a product manager, can look at this report and understand the user's journey and see exactly where it failed. But if you're using the page object model, which is a really common pattern for organizing test code, you'll hit this problem pretty fast. Wrapping every single method in test.step leads to a ton of repetitive boilerplate code. There's got to be a cleaner way, right? And of course there is, a custom decorator. This is just a small, reusable piece of code that you can place right on top of your page object methods. It automatically wraps them in a test step for you, using the method's name as the description and even logging the arguments. It's a super elegant way to get readable steps without cluttering up your code. So now we know where the test failed, but we still need to know exactly why. This brings us to what I think is the most critical part of any failure report, the assertion error message. We can make these messages incredibly informative. Take this API test error. You see it all the time. We expected a status code of 201, but we got 200. Okay, so the test failed, but which API endpoint was it? What data did we even send? The standard error message gives us the what, but absolutely none of the crucial context. The solution is to create our own custom assertions. Using Playwright's expect.extend, we can define our own matcher. Inside this matcher, we do our check, but more importantly, we craft a super detailed, context-rich error message for when things go wrong. And the results is a total game changer. Instead of a generic to be, we use our new custom to have status code. Now, when it fails, the error message gives us the exact URL, the expected and received status, and even the full request body. Your diagnosis time just dropped from minutes to seconds. This same idea applies to your UI tests. Instead of one check that looks for an element with specific text, split it into two. First, check that the element itself, like an alert box, is visible. Then, check that it contains the text you want. Now, if it fails, you know precisely if the box never even showed up, or if it just had the wrong message. Much better.
All right, now that our reports are jam-packed with useful information, we need to think about who's actually reading them. Not everyone needs or wants the same level of detail, right? Playwright makes it really easy to tailor reports for different audiences. So for a developer who's just watching a CI/CD pipeline run, the dot reporter gives a simple, clean progress view. For a QA engineer who needs to debug a failure, the full HTML report with all the traces is perfect. And hey, for a manager, you can write a custom reporter that sends a high-level summary right to Slack or Telegram. It's all about the right info for the right person. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about something that feels a little bit like the future. The Playwright team has built in a feature that uses AI to help you understand why your test failed. The workflow is so simple. When a test fails, you open the HTML report, and there's a new button right next to the error. You click it, and it copies a specially made prompt. Then you just paste that into your favorite AI chatbot, and it will often give you a super detailed explanation of the failure and sometimes even suggest a code fix.
So why does this actually work so well? Well, the prompt that Playwright generates isn't just the error message. No, it includes the test code, the full error trace, and even data from the accessibility tree. It gives the AI a massive amount of context, and that's the absolute key to getting an accurate diagnosis. So let's wrap this all up. First, turn on the basic reporters, traces, and screenshots. It's a no-brainer. Second, use test.step to make your reports tell a story. Third, write custom assertions to get error messages that actually help you. Fourth, pick the right report for your audience. And finally, don't be afraid to use that AI prompt to make your debugging way faster. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've just seen how AI can analyze and explain why a test failed. The next step feels, well, kind of inevitable, doesn't it? How long is it going to be before these tools are not just explaining our failures, but preventing them by writing the perfect assertions for us in the first place? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.